Hey guys, welcome back. Something happened to my audio settings, so I had to screw around with some stuff. So if I sound a little quiet or a little loud or weird or something, just let me know in the comments and I'll see if I can fix it. Anyways, we are going to continue to talk about the Beastmen. The call to battle. It is the ambition of every Beastman chieftain to dominate the forests so thoroughly that all other war herds will do his bidding. A chieftain that wishes to unite the tribes against mankind must first prove his right to do so by brutal ritual combat against his rivals. Calling the Bray Herd. The Bray Herd is a mustering of all the war herds in a given region. Each Bray Herd is called by a chieftain who, with his blood up and his ire roused, determines that the herd must be gathered and war must be brought to the lands of men. The chieftain, being a surly, rancorous creature, will have plotted a mighty vengeance to visit upon his foe, and calculated according to his instinctive animalistic nature how best to achieve these deadly goals. A chieftain does not foster his dreams of conquest and cruelty alone, for he will be counseled by all the while, by his Bray Shaman. The Bray Shaman will consult the portents and divine the will of the Chaos Gods, until he believes the time is right to call the Bray Herd. It is upon the word of the chieftain that the Bray Herd is called, but none would do so were it not for the affirmation of a Bray Shaman's counsel. For beastmen are creatures of superstition who only truly fear the wrath of the gods. The calling of the Bray Herd starts with the building of a massive pyre, often made of the dried bones of sacrificial offerings, or from timber torn from the shrines of man's gods. Onto the fire the Bray Shaman casts a noxious preparation of leaves, lichen, and weeds, imbued with the ancient magic of the deep woods. Coiling mists aglow with evil creep out from the fire to twist and turn along the forest paths. The vapors inflame the rotten hearts of the beastmen with bloodlust and draw them to the sight of the Bray Herd. To this magical summons is added the strident bellowing of the chieftain that would call the Bray Herd, his hoarse cries resounding through the night. As the numbers of beastmen at the site increase, so the forests echo with their unruly braying and the chanting of the shamans. One after another, each chieftain steps into the clearing, making his presence known. If the calling is taking place at a herdstone or similar structure, the chieftain will carve his mark into the surface, so that his coming might be known for all years to come. Really, the only question is, what gets to eat you? Oscar Ridloff, veteran huntsman. Call of the Doom Bull. It is not only war gores and beast lords that call the Bray Herd. Sometimes the dread minotaurs, known as Doom Bulls, will do so instead. Whereas a chieftain will have plotted and schemed and taken counsel from his shaman, a minotaur will simply be responding to a deep-seated urge to destroy. A ravenous hunger, known as the blood greed, comes upon them, and they bellow a deafening war cry that raises an echo in every beastman that hears it. Sometimes a shaman will attempt to guide the actions of a Doom Bull, but minotaurs being simple creatures, his counsel must be suitably blunt and to the point. In all likelihood, simply informing the Doom Bull of the location of a large amount of meat, men, dwarves, or maybe elves, will be sufficient to bring on the blood greed. This is dangerous for the shaman, for he could be caught up in the general anarchy, as scores of minotaurs stampede to war. Fortunately, the minotaurs believe it is bad luck to kill a Bray Shaman, though accidents do, of course, still happen. Ambitious shamans may attempt to control a Doom Bull instead of merely offering counsel. Some even go so far as to possess the body of a Doom Bull, using it to call the Bray Herd and lead a full-scale invasion. This is disapproved of by the other Bray shamans, for when discovered it does great damage to their ability to guide events according to their plans. A Doom Bull that discovers it has been manipulated in such a manner will be driven into a rage and seek revenge against the offending shaman, his anger overcoming the ingrained prescription against harming such a creature. In the case of the Doom Bull, Karak Stoneheart, the spirit bond was discovered almost instantly, yet before the shaman's spirit could break free, the Doom Bull took his vengeance, smashing the Bray shaman's recumbent body to a pulp. The shaman was thereafter trapped in Karak's mind, and now both war constantly to assert their dominance over Karak's body. The towering Doom Bull is likely to stand firm and unleash dark magics upon his foe, as he is to charge headlong into combat. The challenge. Once the Beastmen have gathered in great numbers, the caller of the Bray herd demands that the assembled chieftains submit to his will and follow him to war. Inevitably, another will challenge the caller's right to lead the Bray herd, and a ritual combat will ensue. If the combatants are mismatched, the challenge is over very quickly, for no quarter is sought or given. At that point, the victor will deliver the killing blow, and before the defeated chieftain has breathed his last breath, rip open his ribcage and draw forth the still beating heart from within. There ensues a gory spectacle in which the corpse is flayed by the victor, the skin to be added to his banner. Occasionally, another challenger steps forward. It is not unknown for a succession of challenges to be fought. When at last the victor is determined, there being no more chieftains willing or able to challenge the present incumbent, the assembled Bray shamans will announce that the matter is decided, and declare the victor the Beast Lord. Sometimes the gathered Bray shamans will fail to agree that the victor of the challenge has the blessing of the dark gods to lead the Bray herd. They may disagree on the meaning of certain portents read in the entrails of their foul-smelling offerings, or they may declare that those portents are against the victor and another must be found. The challenge begins all over again, until the Beast Lord who is able to demonstrate the blessings of the dark gods is victorious. Shamanic Challenge. On occasion, it will be a shaman rather than a chieftain that unites the war herds and unleashes an invasion upon the enemies of their kind. This is unusual, but will generally come about when a shaman is gifted or touched in some way by the power of chaos. Excuse me. The great Bray shaman Galak Beastai. One second. Galak Beast Eye, for example, was lifted into the night sky within a nimbus of black lightning at the culmination of a ritual. In a booming voice not his own, Beast Eye declared war upon the rulers of Ostermark, and no chieftain dared to challenge his right to gather and lead the Bray herd. Beast Eye's 20,000-strong horde surged from the dead wood, the Bray shaman at its head, and cut a swath through the towns on the upper reaches of the Talabek, putting thousands to death in grisly mass sacrifices before turning south and attacking the haunted land of Sylvania. Should one Bray shaman call the Bray herd and another challenge him, the two will fight a ritual challenge. The shamans do not engage in physical combat themselves. Instead, they send their spirits questing into the surrounding forests to possess the mind of the largest and fiercest beasts they can find. The resulting combat is fought before the herd stone, often destroying the camp and much of the surrounding forest in the process. Fell rituals. The instant the Beast Lord is acknowledged, the assembled Beastmen erupt into a frenzy of action. Led by chanting, shrieking Bray shamans, the Beastmen perform the ugliest, basest acts imaginable. Captives are dragged forth and sacrificed before the herd stones, their wailing, the taste of their fear, and the scent of their butchered flesh attracting minotaurs who wolf down their remains in bloody gulps. The forests resound to the screams of enemy soldiers bound to the herd stones by their own viscera, such that men for leagues in every direction tremble and pray to their gods that it is not their town the savage hordes will descend upon when dawn finally arrives. As daylight nears the ritual's climax, from the shrouded tree line the atonal drowning of war horns sounds, accompanied by the dolorous, arrhythmic pounding of the mighty drums made from the flayed skins of defeated foes. Soon massed figures emerged from the mists and the horde becomes visible in all its terrible glory. The horde rises. The tactics employed by the Beastmen are not the practiced drills of many other races, but the inherent guile of a pack of wild animals stalking and encircling its prey. They sense weakness and smell fear, surging forward for the kill and falling upon their prey in an orgy of butchery. The coming of the horde is always presaged by a cacophonous braying. As if to amplify their already deafening war cries, the Beastmen employ war horns fashioned from the tusks of forest creatures, or the horns of slain rivals. They carry a bewildering array of banners adorned with the heads of fallen enemies, and daubed with the crude runes that identify each herd. Such banners are used to increase the Beastmen's own stature, ensuring that even distant enemies can see the dominance and strength of the bearers. At the center of the horde, as it surges forward, are heavily armored elite bestigors. Equipped with huge axes taken from the treasures stacked at the base of each herdstone, these beastmen hack into the enemy as farmers scythe down wheat. Bestigors will fight to the death to take the banners of their foe, trampling enemy standards into the mud as the bulk of the horde comes on in their bloody wake. All the while, gores and ungores stalk through the undergrowth to encircle and hem in the enemy battle line, moving into the most advantageous positions before springing horribly effective ambushes upon the flanks and rear of the enemy army. Many a gunnery or archer battalion has believed itself safe behind sharpened stakes and defensible positions, only to find that the Beastmen had them surrounded from the start. Alongside the war herd comes the Minotaurs, driven to such extremes of violence by the scent of blood that they cannot wait until the day is won to feast upon their victims. They gorge themselves on the flesh of their dying foes even as battle rages all around. The beasts of the wild come too. Above the battlefield, ragged flocks of harpies screech and squabble over the remains of the dead. Twisted chaos spawn thrash and writhe as the raw power of chaos surges through their veins. Even larger creatures accompany the horde. Terrifying cygors, rot-clad giants from the forests, and bloated, betentacled things that lurk within the forest bogs and can swallow whole a dozen men in a single gulp. When the herds form up for battle, it is not as small, ragged bands, but as fully armed and battle-ready armies, united by the will of the chieftain. The sight is sufficient to strike terror into even the bravest warriors, for such a menagerie of horrors can consume all before it. If we run, they will claw us into the dirt, and their hounds will gnaw the gristle from our bones. If we surrender, they will bind and bleed us, and minotaurs will feast on our flesh. If we fight, they will hack and rip and bite and butcher, and they will swallow our still beating hearts. So many deaths, which will we choose? Blind Nowl, the seer of Paravon. dark night of Karak-Hirn. In a time before the memory of any beastmen that lives in the spider-haunted black depths, there occurred a peculiar battle, the tale of which has been told by uncounted generations. The story concerns the war-gore known as Scar Blackhorn and his war-herd, who one gray morn hunted a wooded pass in search of an enemy upon which to enact their cruel hatred. It is told that the morning mists still clung to the trees when the Blackhorn was granted his desire. Looking down from his vantage point atop a craggy outcrop, the war-gore spied a mile-long caravan of over 100 wagons snaking its way towards him. Each wagon was guarded by a company of stout dwarves. The war-gore knew little of this foe, for most of his wars had been fought against men and goblins, but he knew all about ale. His mouth watered in anticipation of washing down the grisly flesh of these foes with great draughts of the intoxicating liquid. The dwarf guards fought like warrior kings in the defense of their cargo, but as the last died with Blackhorn's serrated cleaver lodged in his skull, the scene changed from one of savage battle to unruly celebration. Blackhorn selected the largest of the barrels, one as large as a herdstone, it is told, and raised it above his head. In minutes, the war-gore had drained the entire barrel, which he flung to the rocky ground, shattering it into uncounted splinters. Loosing a resounding belch that echoed amidst the crags all about, Blackhorn bellowed aloud his war-herd. Blackhorn allowed his war-herd to claim their share of the remaining barrels. As impressive as... My goodness, let me take a second and start over. As impressive a spectacle as this might have been, it was what occurred next that seared Scar Blackhorn's name into history. Driven into a berserker rage by the potent dwarfen brew, the war-herd of Blackhorn rampaged drunkenly up the mountain pass, far beyond the territory into which a lone war-herd would normally attack. By evening, the Beastmen had reached the foothills about the dwarven stronghold of Karak-Hirn, and there they commenced a night of bloody slaughter. In a single night, the dwarves' holdings all about Karak-Hirn were reduced to ashes, their ancestral lands trampled and burnt, and their finest warriors laid low by the rampaging Beastmen. Drunken pestigores competed with one another to shatter the mighty stone statues of ancient dwarfen lords that lined the mountain roadways, using only their horns. The gores took hundreds of decapitated heads to bear aloft on their savage totems, tying them by the beards to the branches of hag trees, and making war horns of precious heirloom drinking horns. The Ungors, unused to the effects of such strong and intoxicating liquor, unleashed terrible wickedness at night. Many fought with one another to claim the horned helmets of any dwarf they could kill, thereby gaining some drunkenly imagined status within the war-herd. The dwarves were utterly unprepared for the slaughter unleashed upon their settlements, the clansmen slain, the livestock butchered, the ancient buildings ruined. As the black sky turned to gray and dawn approached, refugees from the outlying mountain communities flooded to the safety of Karak-Hirn, driven before the 1,000-strong horde of drunken, marauding beastmen. It is said that Scar Blackhorn and his warriors awoke the next morn, even more disheveled than normal, the hateful sun glaring painfully down upon them. They found themselves before the very gates of Karak-Hirn, bleary heads ringing to the sounds of its defenders mustering for what the dwarves must have feared would be a prolonged siege by a mighty horde. Knowing, even if the details eluded him, that the previous night's work had been plenty to earn the favor of the dark gods, Blackhorn ordered his war-herd to return back down the mountain pass to the black deeps, noting with deep-hearted satisfaction the devastation wrought upon the lands of the dwarves. dwarves. And so the deeds of Scar Blackhorn are told by the warherds south of the Black Mountains, and who can naysay them? Only the dwarves of Garakir know the true extent of what occurred that night, the entire saga recorded in detail for all time within the crumbling pages of the Great Book of Grudges. Hold on, I have to find the next segment here. The Days of Wrath. The Beastmen are creatures consumed by hatred for all other races and wage a constant war against them, a war that escalates with every passing day. The Seed of Hate. The Beastmen's long war has raged year in and year out since the disparate tribes of men united under Sigmar. Prior to that time, the Beastmen were the undisputed masters of their realm, and all creatures within it were their prey. It is to this state that the Beastmen would return the world. By way of black coercion and riotous demagoguery, the Bray shamans subtly and deliberately guide the warherds, and by extension the entire race, along a twisting path towards an apocalyptic time when every Beastman in the old world will rise as one. Then the civilization of mankind will be cast down and ground beneath uncounted cloven feet. The greatest and most terrible of all the Bray shamans is the beast known as Malagor. Hailed as the Dark Omen, Malagor travels widely from warherd to warherd, whispering his insidious evil counsel to the chieftains and accompanying them to battle against mankind. Man has learned to fear Malagor as a devil without equal, and even the merest sign of his presence can send the defenders of a town into the cold embrace of terror, robbing their will to fight. When Malagor takes to the battlefield, the direst of blasphemies are sure to be enacted upon those who dare to face him. It was Malagor who ripped in two the state colors of the army of Averland, who cast down the statue of Sigmar Ascendant from atop the greatest temple in Altdorf, crushing the congregation, who drenched 100 maddened flatulence in oil and set them afire in the church of Grunberg, burning down the building along with half the town, who caused the waters of the Stir to flood and boil as the Knight's Griffin forded it near Vertbad, cooking each within his armor. Having defeated his enemies on the field of battle, Malagor calls forth great, shambling, fine-swathed forest giants. These he compels to pound man's towns to dust, so that no trace of artifice or hated civilization presence remains. Before the next moon rises, twisted and thorny vegetation has crawled forth and reclaimed the land where once proud temples and soaring castle walls stood. Recently, Malagor has been offering his fell counsel to the mighty chieftain Khazrak the One-Eye, a dire portent indeed for all the men of the Drakvald, and indeed far beyond. The beast rises. While the shamans stoke the fires of hatred, it is the chieftains who enact the dark purpose of the Beastmen. It is within the savage hearts of these beasts that the will and the power to unite the warherds lie. It is the beast lords who challenge the leaders of the civilized races for possession of the world, engaging them in battle as a predator fighting a rival for dominance of a hunting ground. Of all the chieftains that lead the warherds, by far the greatest scourge upon mankind is Khazrak the One-Eye. Since taking control of his warherd, Khazrak has roamed the Drakvald, terrorizing human towns, keeps, and even cities. There are towns in the Drakvald that Khazrak has destroyed so utterly that the forest has entirely reclaimed the land. Roads that once led to bustling settlements now petering off into the undergrowth without explanation. It is said that the Emperor's cartographers can scarcely keep up with the devastation Khazrak is wreaking across the Drakvald, their maps rendered obsolete as more and more towns are destroyed. The Night of the Mad. In the south of the Reichwald is to be found the town of Fredaheim, a once prosperous settlement dominated by a massive walled sanatorium that is maintained by the followers of the human goddess Shalaya. The Beastmen of the surrounding woods harbored a special hatred for this rearing walls of the Fredaheim hospice, and plotted its downfall for many seasons. One midwinter, a Bray shaman called Skull Gave cast a terrible spell as the chaos moon waxed in the night sky. The shaman's braying echoed across the lands, penetrating the nightmares of every man for miles about. The lunatics of the sanatorium were stirred into a frenzy by the disturbing words and turned on their keepers. At that very moment, a beastman horde 10,000 strong burst from the benighted forests and overran Fredaheim, slaying its defenders and feasting upon their corpses beneath the gibbous chaos moon. It is said that the inmates of the sanatorium welcomed the beastmen as saviors, rushing to embrace them in gratitude for their freedom. Most were butchered by the blood-mad gores, but others, who imitated the beastmen and fell to devouring the corpses of their keepers, were allowed to live. It is said that amongst the Ungors of the Reichwald, there still run ragged lunatics who crave the taste of flesh as much as any minotaur. In the Reichwald, the beastmen glare jealously from the eaves of the forest, plotting the downfall of the hated, mighty walled city of Altdorf that rises so high above the trees. Mankind believes he is safe in the environs of the city, and each year the farmers of the surrounding lands fell more trees and clear the forest back yet further. But the chieftains of the warherds of the Reichwald are merely biding their time, launching devastating assaults upon the outlying settlements in order to weaken the lands of men and terrorize his peoples. On occasion, an especially bold beast lord has united the warherds of the Reichwald and led them against the city itself. Although the beastmen have yet to succeed in overrunning Altdorf, the Bray shamans believe that it is only a matter of time before the city is surrounded, cut off, and eventually starved into submission by the numerous warherds of the region. The Harbinger. It was in the Reichwald that the Ripperhorn tribes committed a blasphemy that cost the lives of uncounted humans from the settlements west of the Bogenhafen along the lower Reich. A previously unknown Bray shaman heralded as the Harbinger of the Beast appeared one night before a gathering of the tribe's shamans. Claiming he could impart upon the shamans the power to defeat mankind once and for all, the Harbinger presided over a ceremony so powerful and extensive that it shattered the herdstone before which it was enacted. In its place there appeared a darkly glowing portal through which 1,000 ravening fiends exploded, slaying the shamans but heeding the commands of the Harbinger. The Harbinger then gathered the Ripperhorn tribes and initiated 3 days and 3 nights of slaughter. As dawn came on the 4th day, the demons faded and disappeared. Yet it is said that periodically the Harbinger of the Beast returns and in trade for the lives of 7 shamans of the Ripperhorn tribes, unleashes the demons of the realm of chaos upon the men of the Empire. The Brass Bull. It is not just the warherds of the Gors and Ungors that are rising up in greater number than ever before. All across Talabekland, there spread legends of a giant bull-headed fiend with the body of living brass. It is told that this monstrous warrior marches at the head of a column of armored minotaurs, fully a mile long, and that whenever the scent of flesh is carried upon the wind, the column breaks into a stampede. The tales are corroborated by centuries across the old world, who have seen the forests scarred and torn down by the Minotaur armies rampage as it passes below. Outriders following this trail of devastation on the the swiftest of horses have reported its passage through and over market towns, armored barracks, flagellant camps, sacred temples, and riverside wharfs, leaving nothing but ruin and great smears of blood that extend out of the other side of each site for many leagues. Of the inhabitants of these unfortunate locales there is invariably no sign, other than the odd scattered boot or broken sword. Most disturbing of all, the outriders swear that the Brass Bull's army is headed directly for Talabheim, and growing larger with each passing week. We are going to call it there because I don't know if you can hear it, but my voice is starting to sound a little demonic. I still have a little bit of a frog in my throat. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that the audio was acceptable. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Bye-bye.